the delusional queen, Ronda Rousey, has ever so gracefully returned with more substance, more content. She should honestly start a podcast. It'd be amazing. Rowdy and Delusional, the name of the podcast. You would think it's two people, but it's actually just one. Ronda Rousey is back, and she was on the Bert Kreischer podcast and spoke about a lot of stuff. She did harp on the same subject as before, aiming at the UFC fans once again, and also Joe Rogan, who she called a fan with an audience. Bro, he's not just a fan. He was the biggest Ronda Rousey fan ever. That guy cried seeing her win in the octagon. The man shared in the same delusion that she had. He was really living as the biggest Ronda Rousey fan, believing that she would beat Floyd Mayweather and that she could defeat half of her male counterparts. And now she's taking shots at him? Golly, it's so confusing why the fans dislike her so much. She seems to be very bitter. Oh, and she still proclaims herself as the GOAT and says that she would die on that hill. Water is wet, fire burns, and Ronda Rousey's ego will never deflate.
You know, I've watched MMA enough, I've watched UFC enough to watch the commentators or Ariel Helwani or like I know, but like you see these people be critical of you and then they may come up to you and be very nice to you. Hey, Rhonda, you know, Ariel, I only know, by the way, not defending Ariel or anything, but he's been an interesting guy attached to the sport. And I've seen him be critical of people like Rampage or yourself. But then you might run into them. Is there a part of you that wants to be like, bitch, you're not my friend. Get the fuck away from me.
That's why I don't talk to those people anymore.
Really?
When's the last time you saw me on Ariel Helwani?
I don't know if I ever have.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time?
Yeah, because I remember that shit.
Really?
Yeah. I remember people who I thought, were my friends, and turns out that they weren't, so I just don't talk to them anymore because that helps them out. So why would I help them out if they're going to, try and, I don't know. It's just, I thought there was like a mutual respect there before that I realized was something that I just imagined. So I don't really speak to a lot of those people anymore.
Ariel does provoke, and he is one to stir up drama, but it is very interesting how like they expect, I don't know, media members and interviewers to be their friends. And I don't know exactly what Ariel said about Ronda, any criticism that he had or anything like that, but if it's something he truly believes, based on her skills or based on her legacy in the sport, why would that be so offensive that you just don't want to talk to the guy ever again? It's spelling of a very large ego. Now, even though I don't agree with Ariel on many things, I think he would still call Ronda as one of the greatest women fighters and probably the most important woman fighter of all time. Like, I can't imagine he would disagree with any of that. So I don't really get what he said. So I don't know. I can't imagine like there's anything that he said that would have been like offensive based on her career. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody has like the same exact assessment of Ronda's career. I'm glad the new fighters now are not like this. They understand the social media game. They understand that not everybody's going to like them. Not everybody's going to kiss up to them. And that they'll probably talk to people that don't really hold them at the highest regard, but that's fine. They don't have to think that you're the greatest thing in the world for you to speak to them. That's quite odd.
Yeah, but it's also like MMA fans and media are the most what have you done for us lately crowd of any sport.
True, makes us the best. We know exactly what we want. And the fans are the customers, dude. They're the consumers. Without them, there is no sport. And they're the ones paying their hard-earned cash, especially in today's economy. If you're not providing their entertainment, of course they're justified with criticizing the sport or the fighter or whatever it is. Like, yes, these fighters are athletes. They're in a competition, but at the same time, they're also performers because they have an audience that's there to give the organization money in order to watch it. So I think MMA fans have a better understanding of this than most other fans in different sports. So what she's really saying is MMA fans are the most informative on what the product is. Thank you.
Like you look at WWE and they have such a reverence for their legends.
Wait, do you mean the same fans that you called ungrateful idiots and that you will never return because of them? She ran into similar issues with the pro wrestling fans that she did with the MMA fans. When you're booed out of different places, it's everybody else's fault, not yours, right?
And at MMA, it's like the second that you're not on top, you're not shit and you never were shit. Chuck Liddell, when he's on top, oh my God, he's the best. The second that he loses, oh, Chuck Liddell ain't shit, he never was shit.
Wait, that's happened? Dude, he still has a fan base and he doesn't fight. He's like 50 years old. Now, granted, I wasn't watching the sport when Chuck Liddell was fighting, but, well, actually I did when he fought Tito the last time. But I didn't watch him in his prime. I didn't watch him when he lost his belt. And for all the unks out there, you let me know, is this true? When he lost his belt and went on the loss streak, did the fans truly believe that he was some bum after? I can't imagine so, because even when I was watching, and before John Jones went on his run, they were still calling Chuck Liddell the greatest light heavyweight of all time. And everybody agreed with this. So I can't imagine that the fans thought he was nothing after he lost his belt. When years later after retirement, they were still calling him the greatest light heavyweight ever until John Jones surpassed him. It seems like she's, I don't know, creating some sort of delusion to convince herself that her losing is what caused the fans to dislike her. That's what it sounds like. Pointing at different examples and essentially rewriting history.
And then Rampage Jackson, oh my God, he's the next Mike Tyson. He's so great. Second he loses, oh, Rampage ain't shit. He never was shit.
Wait, really? People thought Rampage was the next Mike Tyson? I could be wrong, but I highly doubt that. The guy had multiple losses before he became champion, and he only defended once. He had one defense against Dan Henderson. It was a more lackluster fight. I mean, the guy got knocked out by Vanderlei Silva twice in Pride and was the underdog when he fought Vanderlei in the UFC, despite Vanderlei being post-prime. So, again, I could be wrong. I wasn't watching the UFC when he was a champ, but I cannot imagine that people thought Rampage Jackson was like the best fighter in the world or anything like that. And also, Rampage carried his fan base all the way into Bellator. He didn't lose his fans at all.
Yeah.
GSP. Oh, he loses.
GSP, the GOAT? Okay. I hope she knows that people regard him as like one of the GOATs of the sport.
He's not shit. He never was shit. Anderson Silva.
Anderson Silva, really? Fans think Anderson Silva is a nobody? I don't think there's ever been a point in Anderson's career where people didn't believe he could do something extraordinary. And I watched Anderson Silva lose to Chris Weidman, and nobody thought he was a bum after that. Nobody did. Dude, people believed that he was going to win the rematch, and when he lost the rematch, they still held Anderson to such high regard. At that point, he was regarded as the GOAT. Anderson is so beloved that people watched this boxing match with Jake Paul, believing that he was going to beat Jake Paul. I was one of them. But it proves the point. What is she saying? GSP is a consensus top 3 GOAT of the sport. His last loss was in like 2006 against Matt Serra, and he was a heavy favorite in the rematch and only grew as a favorite to the closing of it. That proves that people were very adamant that he was going to win that fight. If they didn't think much of him after losing, nobody would bet on him then, right? Bro, this is beyond delusional. But it's the usual with Ronda Rousey. She'll never understand why fans actually dislike her. And when she talks like this, it only makes the fans dislike her even more. She is literally rewriting history, making it seem like the fans turned their backs on these legends after they lost their belts, when it never happened. I can only remember one champion and where that happened.
Oh my God, he's like he was like almost a mythical creature for a while.
Yeah.
He was like this ninja, and he would hypnotize everyone in front of him. And second he loses, oh, Anderson ain't shit. He never was shit. Fedor Emelianenko, great, one of the greatest ever. Second he loses, oh, Fedor ain't shit. He never was shit. And I think the only reason that why MMA fans have their lips so firmly planted at the base of Khabib's cock,
that's haram,
is because he retired before he reached his limit. And if he kept fighting until he reached his limit, everybody would be like, oh, Khabib ain't shit. He never was shit.
Yeah, so this pretty much confirms what I said. She's rewriting history to convince herself of this delusion that the fans only disliked her because she lost, when that has nothing to do with it. She will never get it. Her ego will never allow her to actually see reality for what it is. The fans only started disliking her because she was not only a sore loser, but also a sore winner. She was essentially like a bully out there. With the Miesha Tate fight, the Holly Holm fight, she was villainized because she made herself the villain. She refused to shake Miesha Tate's hand after beating her. The loser of the fight showed so much humility and respect that she wanted to shake Ronda Rousey's hand, and Ronda refused. And then leading into the Holly Holm fight, she was accusing Holly Holm of being fake. She refused to touch gloves with her before the fight started as they're facing off. One of the nicest fighters in the UFC, and you have a problem with her. And then you get dominated in the fight and refuse to do interviews, talk to the fans. These are the fans who bought your pay-per-view, who spend money to watch your fight and went into attendance 56,000 strong, just to ghost it all. She showed no humility, no humbleness in defeat. Does she ever try to reason with the fact that people like Miesha Tate? Even though Miesha lost to Ronda twice, yet people still like Miesha more than Ronda. Why is that if it's about losses? Miesha was never undefeated. She won and lost her belt too. But when she lost to Amanda Nunes, what did she do? She did interviews. She was very humble. She gave Amanda Nunes her flowers. She calls Amanda Nunes the GOAT. Who does Ronda call the GOAT? You'll never guess. And why does she seem so upset about that? I don't know. It seemed like a shed of envy with the way Khabib exited the sport undefeated, and now fans love him, right? There's fans calling him the GOAT and stuff. Now, I know there's some people who are saying true to what she said. Yes, there are some fans that overrate Khabib. Regardless if he's the GOAT or not, I don't think he is. He's still one of the greatest fighters of all time and a legend of the sport. Yes, the 29-0 is somewhat flimsy because prior to the UFC, those are all 2-round fights. And a lot of people view those as illegitimate, which is reasonable. It's not a real professional fight until it's 3 rounds. So even with that, in the UFC, he was 13-0, won the belt and had 3 title defenses against good fighters, and it wasn't just him being undefeated. What she seems to miss is that if Khabib was undefeated and beat the same guys, but won all of those top fights by split decision, I don't think people would call him the GOAT. I don't think he would be as revered as he is. What truly sets Khabib apart from so many fighters was how dominant he was. He lost 2 rounds in his entire career. He never bled, had no lacerations, nothing. In a fist fight, 13 fist fights in the UFC. That is truly just generally impressive. His domination, along with his undefeated record and being the champion of 3 title defenses and beat some good fighters, as a collective is the reason why people rate him so highly, right? It's not just the undefeated stuff. That's the way she seems to perceive it. But there's more context to it than just being undefeated, right? What do all the Khabib fans say? Never bled, never bruised, undefeated.
And they're like that with everybody. Like name one person.
Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, Cain Velasquez, Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, Rampage Jackson, Shogun Rua, Lyoto Machida, Anderson Silva, Dominic Cruz, Robert Whittaker, and honestly pretty much every champion that's ever existed besides one. Bro, Randy Couture won and lost his belt like a million times and never lost his fan base. The guy's like 20-11, with like half of his wins and losses being title fights. Yet he is beloved in the MMA landscape. Even still, even for people that never watched him live, they love that guy. They were calling him Captain America, even late into his career. And the perfect current example is Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is one of the greatest Brazilian fighters of all time. And he's still one of the most popular Brazilian fighters they've ever had. Despite him having like 11 losses in a row, it will not shake away his fan base at all. I will be a Charles Oliveira fan until he retires. Because even after him losing the belt, he gave Islam all of the respect, and this is what champions do. It's part of a championship mentality that we've seen from all of the others. I don't have to be a fighter or a champion to understand and observe what 99% of champions do when they lose. They don't act the way Ronda did. They give their opponent respect, they talk to the fans, and they move on to the next fight. Humility and humbleness is one of the most important traits for any fighter. It allows them to learn, it allows them to progress after they lose, and improve off of that. And it's a reason why it seemed like Ronda hadn't improved at all throughout her career. She was the same fighter from her first UFC fight all the way until she lost to Nunes. She looked like the same fighter from our perspective. And probably this ego is a reason for that. It might not have allowed her to progress. So her assessment on the sport and the fans is very interesting.
You know?
No, I mean...
Brock ain't shit. He never was shit. Name one past champion that has the kind of respect that the current champions do.
Well, now that's a different question. They have the same respect as the current champions. They're not going to, because they're not current champions. Of course, the current champions are going to garner so much respect because they're currently the best fighters in the world. It also depends on what type of respect she's speaking of, because we can look at the Charles Oliveira and Islam and Ilya situation, right? Charles Oliveira has not lost any respect. People still highly respect him, regardless if he has the belt or not. He's always going to be a legend in everybody's eyes, no matter how many losses he acquires after this. But at the same time, if she's talking about competitive respect, like who we view as the highest caliber in the sport, of course, he's not going to be at the same respect as Islam and Ilya, because Islam and Ilya are the 2 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. It would be delusional to believe that he is, because he lost to them. Of course, he's not going to be regarded on the same level as those guys. Not every fighter will. But as a legend of the sport, yeah, of course he's going to be respected. Does she believe, like, when she lost to Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes, that she should have been respected on the same level as them competitively? Because that's straight up delusional, dude. You got dominated by Holm and then TKO'd in less than a minute against Nunes. It'd be delusional to believe that she was a better fighter than them or on the same level as them. But do you know what she never brings up? That up until that point, people still regarded her as the greatest women fighter of all time, even when she lost to Nunes. I haven't heard her speak of that. Nunes was the one who surpassed her, and then other fighters as well, like Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili and Joanna Jędrzejczyk was close, you know? There's been many great women fighters, but I've never seen her speak of the fact that fans were still calling her the GOAT, even after all the sour attitude from her losses.
And it's really sad because I think it encourages people to try and get out while they're peaking and leaving and taking all of that equity with them instead of passing it on to whoever's next to take up the mantle. And it's something that I wanted to retire undefeated because I was so afraid of like, oh, everything that I've accomplished is going to be nothing if I ever lose. So I have to retire undefeated. And it wasn't until I got into the WWE and saw that, wait, you have to retire on a loss.
What is she talking about? So she's like trying to reason with herself as to why retiring on a loss is a good thing, and it's selfish for a fighter to retire undefeated as they keep all the equity. You have no obligation to do that at all. Is she also implying that she only fought Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes because of that reason? That she had to give back to the sport? Bro, she was 12-0 when she fought Holly Holm. What is she talking about that she had to give back to the sport? You were also new to the sport. Her and Holly Holm had almost the same amount of experience. Now, she was the champion in the UFC and fought various contenders and stuff, but she's making it seem like it was time to retire 4 years into her career. Her and Holly Holm both made their MMA debuts in the same year. They were both 4 years into their career when they fought each other. Amanda Nunes, by the way, made her MMA debut 3 years before Ronda Rousey. She was more experienced. She was also in Strikeforce. She was in Invicta. She was in the UFC and had some wins and losses. She's talking like she was some 35 veteran who was on the cusp of retirement. It's like, dude, she was hitting her prime when she fought Holly Holm. She was like 28 at the time.
Everybody in the WWE has to retire on loss because you have to pass that torch on. And I think everyone in MMA is they're gonna try and take the torch with them because of how the fans respond to it.
I guarantee there hasn't been a single fighter who has retired for fan approval. That is so crazy. Dude, the delusion is off the charts, bro.
But it's offensive to some people. Like, oh my God, a highly accomplished woman with a high opinion of herself. Keyboard warriors to war. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I said the other day that I'm the greatest ever. And man, everyone flipped the fuck out over it. And I'm like, how do you define the greatest ever?
Yes, it's only because she's a woman, guys. Surely there hasn't been a man who got flack for proclaiming himself to be the GOAT. What an insufferable response. She's pulling the I'm a woman card and the fans don't want to hear an opinionated woman. So then why doesn't Amanda Nunes get the same flack when she calls herself the GOAT? Because it's true and everybody agrees with her. Ronda just said she considers herself the GOAT. Now we'll see as to why that is. She might be right, guys.
I define the greatest ever as the person who was the most dominant and the farthest ahead of their time, right? Because you can't judge different eras against each other. You can't judge LeBron against Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's the greatest ever, I'd say, because of the effect that he had on culture, how far ahead of his time he was, and how dominant he was. And no one can say that I haven't been the most dominant or most ahead of my time, and I'll die on that hill. But a bunch of people that have never been in a fight in their lives will, devote a good portion of their day to arguing otherwise. But the great thing for me is that outrage drives engagement.
That is very true, and it is great for her. It keeps her in the headlines and allows the fans that she loves so much to continue expressing their opinions. It's a win-win for everybody. Before she gets into the whole all publicity is good publicity, she said that she is the greatest of all time. She's just dead wrong, even with her criteria. She said dominance while being ahead of your time is what points to the GOAT. She sure made those Holm and Nunes fights dominant and ahead of her time. Still to this day, nobody's ever lost as easily to those two as she did. Literally. She said, I'm the GOAT and I'll die on this hill, as she lists a convenient criteria that strengthens her achievements. It's like if Charles Oliveira said that the GOAT is the fighter with the most finishes. This is not close. Amanda Nunes is by far and easily the greatest woman fighter of all time. And I'm sorry, Ronda's not even number 2. Number 2 is Valentina Shevchenko. Easily fought in 2 different divisions, fought for the belt, should have beaten Amanda Nunes for the title. She beat Holly Holm and Juliana Pena, 2 bantamweight champions, moved to her true weight class and defended the belt 7 times. The same amount of times that Ronda did, but against higher level competition. She lost her belt, went to a draw in the rematch, and then won the belt in the trilogy. I would say Ronda's top 5, but I certainly would not have her in the top 2. Right? If you think she's number 3, 4, or 5, I can agree with that.
Joe on the walk over, and all it takes is a text going, how long for me to train to beat Ronda? That'll never happen.
He wouldn't know. He's not an expert. He's a fan with an audience.
That's interesting. Is that how you feel about
Never fought.
He fought Taekwondo, right?
Never fought. That's not fighting. It's not fighting.
Based. Disregard everything. Ronda might just be correct. Probably the best statement she made on the entire podcast. Okay, no, but everybody has their opinions on this. I don't know. Some people don't view Joe Rogan as an expert because they disagree with so much of what he says, and he tends to be so hyperbolic and inaccurate with his assessment of the sport. But then there's some people who view him as an expert because he's been commentating for such a long time. But she says it because he's never fought before. Now, I don't know if that's even true. Didn't he do some kickboxing matches too, instead of just Taekwondo? But after all of this, dude, she clearly is just so delusional on the reasoning as to why so many fans dislike her. She thinks it's based off her losses and stuff. That has nothing to do with that. I don't think she'll ever realize why the fans don't like her. I mean, the fans constantly tell her why, but she lives in her own world, and that's not about her personality. It's not about her attitude and just being so sour. No, it has to do with her losing, because that's definitely the reason why all these other legends lose their fans. The ego really warps reality. And dude, do you know what the opinion of so many people about her is? Whether it's accurate or not, she portrays a bully who perpetually victimizes themselves. The mental gymnastics that she goes through to convince herself of such delusion must be nauseating. Can you imagine you convincing yourself of this all the time, that this is the reason why people don't like me and it's their fault because they turn their backs on me, which is quite ironic. And honestly, it extends even further than just her attitude, but even with the way she was promoted and all the delusional opinions around her, from like, she can fight in boxing, she can beat Floyd Mayweather in a fight, she can beat half of her male counterparts. Yo, the Ronda Rousey phenomenon was quite interesting to say the least. And her biggest fan, the one with the loudest megaphone, was Joe Rogan. That was her biggest fan, dude. He shared in her delusion, dude. And think about it, if that's the way she treats her biggest fan, it's no wonder that so many other fans dislike her. I guarantee if she showed humbleness after losing to Holly Holm, many of her fans would have remained. Many of them. And it's funny because there was another interview where she said that she gave the fans everything she had and it wasn't enough for them. Dude, she is so unaware. Living in this delusion. I don't know who told her this, that it was about her loss. That's the time it happened, but it's not from the loss. It's from her being a sore loser. But that's my opinion on it, and it seems like she is never going to change her mind. She's going to live in her delusion no matter what. It's never too late for her to show humbleness. If she did an interview and, like, I don't know, went on Joe Rogan's podcast and actually lived in reality for a moment, I think she would garner more fans again. But the fact that she vehemently refuses to accept that reality is what makes people dislike her even more. And that's the end of the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully Ronda just comes to reality one day.